Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley in Washington, D.C. Keep up with everything, of course, at the indispensable website, tarpley.net, the Twitter feed, Webster G. Tarpley. So, the observers sent to Syria by the Arab League have found nothing frightening. Now, I wouldn't put it that way. I would say they found death squads, as other observers have said, armed gangs, ragtag groups, I would say death squads, very, very short and to the point, that are operating there. These are too weak to hold a continuous front. In other words, they can't seize territory and defend it. This is urban guerrilla warfare carried out based on some neighborhoods that have a strong fanatic Muslim Brotherhood percentage, but and also intimidating people, right, forcing them to be quiet, or you'll be shot by Belhaj and his gang. They're operating in Homs and Hama, and whenever you see these pictures, when you see some child that's been shot, ask yourself, how do you know who did the shooting? I got some guy this week saying, I did a program with Bonnie Faulkner on KPFA in Berkeley and San Francisco, and the guy came in, he sent me an email saying, this is so different from what I've been hearing from Amy Goodman at Democracy Now!, and it's so different from what I'm hearing from Al Jazeera. What should I conclude? You shouldn't conclude that they're lying. You should conclude that Amy Goodman proved herself over the last decade as a staunch backer of the Bush administration theory of terrorism, and now she's a staunch backer of the Obama theory of destabilization in the Middle East. And maybe this has something to do with the largesse shown to her by the Ford Foundation, one of the main operations, one of the main apparatuses of internal control, domination, and indeed counterinsurgency here in the United States. So there's all a big lie. Now, Feltman is leaning on the Arab League observers, right? You better support the anti-Assad, pro-opposition line, or else, right? There's a personal threat. Toner says, be intrepid. We've also got the Syrian National Council putting up this big complaint that the president of the observer team is a Sudanese. Oh, he's a Sudanese. It's General Mustafa al-Dabi, who works for General Bashir, right, the president of Sudan, who, of course, along with so many other African leaders, in particular black African leaders, has been indicted by this racist imperialist international criminal court, right? This fake tribunal for imperialists that has been hooked up in the Netherlands. So they're saying, oh, he can't be objective because he's from Sudan. Is it because he's black, dear members of the Free Syrian Army and dear members of the Syrian National Council? Is that got something to do with it? So they want to pick and choose. They want everybody from Saudi Arabia, undoubtedly, everybody from Doha, of course, who's going to give them what they want. Now, we've also got a member of the Syrian National Council says, this mission, he whines, this mission of the observers is born dead. It's going to be ineffective. Ineffective for them means it will not validate our lunatic narrative. And remember, every number that you've seen, activists say it means the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, sometimes engaged in a bidding war with the Syrian National Council. And when they say Free Syrian Army, they mean Death Squads United. That's who that is. The indigenous death squads made up of Muslim Brotherhood fanatics, made up of draft dodgers, criminal elements, deserters, you name it, and these foreign elements brought in, paid for by Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Doha, Qatar, and the rest of them. We even have this inside story. This is really interesting. There's a guy called Afshin Rattansi, Rattansi. Afshin is his first name. Afshin Rattansi was one of the first journalists to go to work for the English language division of Al Jazeera. And for whatever reason, I'd be interested to know, he is now out. He's in London, and he was interviewed on Russia Today. And he said, look, we're always putting up these cell phone videos, but none of these can be verified. And nevertheless, the Western press, the Western networks, cable TV, the Western news agencies, all take this stuff as gospel truth. They simply buy the Syrian observatory version. And as I've said before, don't limit yourself to the Syrian observatory version that you're going to get from Amy Goodman and from Noam Chomsky and the rest of these left liberal mushheads, fakers, imperialist tools, whatever they are. Go and see what Sana says about it. There's something called Syrian Arab News Agency. Give them a chance, right? It used to be journalism would be to give two sides of a question like this, but no, we can't do that anymore. It's just that it's totally unverifiable. So this has not been a good week for the destabilizers. Now, I would also call your attention, first of all, to the Afshin Ratansi interview on Russia Today, RT, not the American one, but the European one. And there's also an interview with Thierry Meyssan, who visited Syria. Indeed, I think is speaking from Syria in this interview. And he points out that one of the principal dangers are these economic sanctions, but that Syria has now made an accord, in effect, an arrangement with Iran and China that will guarantee the economic basis of continuing an independent, non-imperialist puppet state in Syria. In other words, a Syrian government is distinct from a NATO, CIA puppet state, led by somebody like Belhaj. So all of this going on. We're told today that there's a big demonstration in Homs, activists say. So I would say that piece of news is simply garbage. Don't even listen to it. One interesting thing, remember General Aoun had warned me Turkey is the weakest country in the region. Turkey is weak. It's split between secular and Islamist, and it's got this big Kurdish minority and a small but active and rather wealthy Alawite minority. The Kurds are now coming into play. The Turks, I don't know why they did this, but they did it. They bombed the hell out of a couple of dozen Kurds and killed a bunch of them inside Turkey. And the Kurds, certain Kurdish organizations, are now calling for a general uprising against Turkey. And this is simply inevitable. You play with fire by attacking and putting the pressure on Syria. You're fomenting a civil war or trying to foment a civil war in northern Syria by letting NATO organize these death squads. Well, war is a two-way street, isn't it? And if you're the aggressor, you can't go whining. Interesting. France 24 had a British journalist on there, and he was asked, do you think the UN Security Council will get involved in the fact that Turkey is killing all these Kurds? And he said, no, it's a purely internal affair. This is Turks killing Kurds on Turkish territory. No need for the United Nations, right? Talk about double standards. Talk about hypocrisy. Back to the minute.